So on November 9th of this year, 2025, guests of a hotel received an email saying, hey, you need to be out by tomorrow at 11 a.m. Regardless of how long the reservation was for, everyone who was staying in that hotel was told that they need to be out the next day. What's worse is that this wasn't actually just one hotel. This was an entire collection of hotels in over 40 cities in 10 countries with 9,000 units live worldwide. And they were all being told to get out the next day. And the cherry on top is that this was a brand that had partnered with Marriott in August of 2024. Hi, my name is Jessica Vanell. I have a degree in hospitality management. I have 7+ years experience working in hotels, and usually my content tends to be skit content about working at the front desk. I try to keep it fun, keep it lighthearted, also slide some lessons in there for you. And sometimes I also like to make explanation videos talking about different aspects of hotels and how they operate and my perspective on how it all works. But I had someone who commented on one of my skit videos saying, hey, you need to talk about the Sonder disaster. And I had no clue what this person was talking about. And then when I looked it up, I fell down a rabbit hole. And now I may or may not have an 8-page script sitting in front of me of all the research and things I found out about this whole disaster. It's absolutely wild. I cannot believe that this major hotel brand, Marriott, messed up this badly with guest recovery. And it's just, there's so many interesting lessons to learn from this. And I hope that Marriott learns it. But yeah, let's dive in. So many news articles have already covered this topic. From the time that I'm filming, it happened about a week ago. I'm hoping that when I get this video up, it'll have been only about 2 weeks since this all went down. Again, this happened on November 9th. People got the email saying they need to be out on November 9th. And they were told they had to leave the next day. That's one of the wildest parts to me about this whole thing, is that they were given such little notice about everything that happened. But I have referenced a lot of news articles and Reddit and other sources on my research for this topic, and I will be linking all of those articles down in the description on YouTube. So check that out if you're interested in reading about all of this. But trust me, I have done my best to be very thorough about my research into this. So let's begin. I think it's best if we start by explaining Sonder. According to their own website, which was actually still up at the time I was researching everything for this, their co-founder and CEO, Francis Davidson, began managing a handful of apartments when he was still a university student in Montreal. Eventually, he started matching travelers with vacant student apartments across cities and managing other people's apartments for short-term rentals. A few years after that, he and co-founder Martin Picard would solidify the foundation of what would become Sonder. So from what I could glean, Sonder was envisioned kind of as an answer to Airbnb and Vrbo. They catered to people who wanted both the perks that you get from staying at hotels and staying with Airbnb. So you still got a lot of unique places to stay, mobile access to the rooms. You didn't have to go through the process of checking with the front desk, but you also didn't get a chore list at the end of your stay. I am looking at you, Airbnb. What is with these massive, Airbnb is a whole other topic I need to go over someday. Yeah, I cannot go into it right now. I will fall down a tangent and the script is 8 pages. The best part of Sonder too was that they were very affordable. So you got kind of a boutique hotel experience without paying boutique hotel prices. For example, a 3-week stay that would cost $7,000 in New York at the downtown Manhattan Residence Inn would instead cost just $2,633 for Sonder at Battery Park. And if you're thinking, wow, Jessica, that's a really specific place and price, yeah, just you wait, we'll get into that. So in the first 5 years, Sonder went from 0 to $143 million in revenue by 2019. And they were valued at $1.1 billion. And in 2019 alone, Sonder signed up nearly 10,000 units. This company, right, was just going up, 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 as far as anyone can see. It was exponential growth, right? And then the pandemic happened. Yep, 2020 came around and poof, the entire hospitality industry was turned upside down. I personally, like I said, went to college for hospitality management, and I distinctly remember that when I was in school, my professors would tell me, oh, this is the fastest growing industry. This industry is only going to keep growing. People are always going to want to travel. People will always need a place to stay or places to go and things to do. So you will always be able to find a job in this industry. And if anything, you'll be able to go global. You could travel. You could work in hotels around the world, and you will always have a job because this industry isn't going anywhere. Yeah, let me tell you, the hospitality industry got humbled very fast when the pandemic happened. Now remember, Sonder had gone global, right? They were in 40 cities in 10 different countries, and then the pandemic starts sweeping over the globe. So by March of 2020, Sonder had laid off a third of their team. And unfortunately for them, once COVID restrictions lifted and travel came back, they still struggled to recover. I mean, keep in mind that during the pandemic, a lot of businesses figured out that they could just hold their meetings over Zoom. And once the restrictions lifted, these companies figured, why would we pay our employees to go fly to a different city to have a meeting that can just be held over Zoom? Right? So even though travel was rising, it was primarily leisure travel that was coming back. Business travel was not. And since Sonder had a lot of properties in big cities, not getting the business travel really hurt. So for the first 5 years, Sonder had seen nothing but growth. But for the next 5 years after the pandemic, Sonder would be fighting for survival. They had to walk away from a lot of properties that they had already opened, and they had to walk away from properties that they were planning on opening. They cut overhead costs, they made their company public, but it still wasn't really helping. So then why did Marriott sign a deal with them if they were obviously struggling? Well, because Sonder had signed so many properties on pre-pandemic, the company still was showing some signs of growth, and apparently it did look like they were on their way towards being profitable again, right? And their CEO thought that maybe the thing that would really push them over the edge and help them get back to profitability would be to partner with a major global brand like Marriott. And by the way, a lot of the information that I got about this history and what happened during and post-pandemic is sourced from the CEO and co-founder himself. In June of 2025, Francis Davidson, the CEO and co-founder, actually posted an article onto LinkedIn titled "My Last Day as Sonder CEO." And what's interesting is that it was Davidson who headed this negotiation for a contract with Marriott, and he said that this was the hardest thing he had ever done, was getting this deal signed. But he did it. He made it happen. In August of 2024, Sonder announced that they had partnered with Marriott, and they were no longer just Sonder, but they were Sonder by Marriott Bonvoy. Marriott's deal with Sonder, by the way, was supposed to be a 20-year licensing agreement, but they ended it. Yeah, that's right. Marriott is the one who cut ties with Sonder. According to Marriott's news release on November 9th, they ended their 20-year licensing agreement because Sonder defaulted on said agreement. Now, they didn't give any more details beyond that, but Sonder did file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy immediately after Marriott's announcement, so I don't think the dots are very hard to connect. All right, so what is Chapter 7 bankruptcy? Well, it's liquidation. Or in other words, sell it all and clear my debts, please. Which is why apparently people who were staying at Sonder's properties when this news broke were just told to get out. They had to close the doors and start the selling process, I guess. This email, by the way, was sent by Marriott Bonvoy, and actually someone posted it, and here's exactly what it says. First, we want to thank you for your loyalty, and we sincerely appreciate you choosing a Marriott Bonvoy property for your stay. We regret to inform you that Marriott's agreement with Sonder Holdings has ended, and Sonder properties are no longer part of the Marriott Bonvoy portfolio. As a result, we are unable to continue your reservation beyond today, and we are kindly requesting that you check out of the property as soon as you are able. We deeply regret the disruption this causes and understand how inconvenient this is during your trip. Please accept our apologies for this unexpected change and know that we are here to make this transition as smooth as possible. A refund for the remaining portion of your stay will be processed on the card on which the advance deposit was processed, and we are working with the credit card processor to get a refund processed as quickly as possible. To assist you, our customer care team is prepared to work with you to secure alternative accommodations for the remainder of your stay. For immediate assistance with rebookings, or if you have any questions, please contact the customer care team at link or or visit Marriott.com to rebook your stay. Thank you for your understanding and continued loyalty. We hope to welcome you to another Marriott Bonvoy property soon. Sincerely, Marriott Customer Care. Oh boy. So where do I even begin with this one? I think we need to break it down line by line. So first of all, they didn't make this transition smooth at all, okay? People had to find alternative accommodations the next day. For some people, the same day, because they woke up to this email. There are multiple reports of people who were stuck on the phone with Marriott who had to go and just find a different hotel on their own, sometimes at a much higher price. And then there was some who didn't get help rebooking at all. They were told, we can't help you. Now, I'm sure that some of the call center agents were briefed on what was going to happen, but from most of the stories I could see from people who experienced this, a lot of them talked to Marriott agents who said that they had no clue what was going on. Oh, and refunds are another issue. Surprisingly enough, I actually saw a lot of people who booked through third parties like Hotels.com and Trivago who said that they were able to get refunds immediately. They just called and said, hey, yeah, we were told we had to leave and that, they're shutting down. And these third parties said, oh, no problem, queen, here's your refund. But what's crazy is that was not at all the same for people who had booked directly with Marriott. Now, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of people who commented saying, yeah, no, I got my refund pretty much immediately, which is fabulous. But there were a lot of people who also booked directly who said that they were having trouble getting a refund at all. And what's so insane is that Marriott themselves went back on their promise. On Sunday, when all this was announced, as I just read in that email, they promised to help work with credit card companies to get refunds. But then on Tuesday, Marriott turned around and said that customers who had made a Sonder reservation through Marriott channels should contact their credit card issuing bank to initiate a refund request. Excuse me? I genuinely don't know what's going on here. These people booked directly with Marriott. They even say customers who book through Marriott channels. Like, what do you mean? How are you telling people who book directly with you that they need to go to their own credit card companies and dispute this payment? And what's worse is there are some people who prepaid for upcoming stays months in advance. Like, you think about the holidays are right around the corner. They want to secure their bookings in the beginning of the year, so they booked over 6 months ago. And a lot of credit card companies have policies that you cannot dispute a charge if it has gone over a 3, 5, 6 month period. Like, some people are being told that they are outside of the chargeback window. What? Oh, and you remember the whole we'll help you secure alternative accommodations? Yeah, remember when I mentioned that a Marriott property in New York would cost $7,000, but a Sonder property costs $2,633? Yeah, I brought that up as an example because that is literally the alternative that someone was given. There was a guy who posted on Reddit that he had called to rebook his upcoming stay in January that had been affected. And again, he had paid about $2,600 for this stay in New York. And the only comparable room that a Marriott agent could find for him was going to cost $7,000. And when he told the agent that that was unacceptable, the agent gave him attitude and was like, well, that's the best I can do. And he tried to escalate up to the agent's manager or supervisor, whoever, and the agent refused. He said, nope, this is the best that we can do for you. Which look, thinking from the agent's perspective, I'm sure that that is the best that he could do, especially because it seems that Marriott had absolutely no plan for how to deal with the fallout from this. But to not have any empathy for your guests and to outright refuse to let them escalate up to a manager is insane to me. But that is a whole nother aspect of this whole situation, right? Like, there were guests who were currently staying at the hotels who were kicked to the curb, but there were also people who had upcoming reservations at Sonder properties for the next several months. And they were being told, hey, yeah, your reservation's canceled, go find something else. And with the holiday season right around the corner, literally Christmas and New Year's Eve next month, people are not going to be able to find reservations at the same price that they were able to find several months ago when they originally booked at Sonder. So it really is crazy to me that Marriott isn't even trying to offer some kind of compensation or, I don't know, maybe figure out a way to give give people who booked at Sonder special codes to book rooms with Marriott and other places at the original rate that I don't know. They should have figured something out and they just didn't. And it's just very frustrating. Oh my gosh, that's right. I felt so bad for this one poster on Reddit. They said, I plan to propose to my girlfriend over Thanksgiving weekend. I booked a week's stay through Marriott because this is our preferred hotel brand. Marriott told me Sunday they would issue a refund to me automatically. Fast forward to today, several days later, they said I had to request my refund. I tried that and it will take 35 days. Marriott ruined my proposal. I called Marriott 6 times and in all instances, they magically hung up mid-sentence. I didn't curse, I didn't do anything, and now I'm stuck not knowing how to even salvage my situation. Flights are already booked, family already booked their trip, so what now? I only booked Sonder because it was Marriott backed. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad for that person, and I really hope that they're able to still have a great proposal, and I hope that she says yes. And I will be commenting later about how people only trusted Sonder because it was Marriott backed, but first I want to add just one more thing to this absolute garbage fire. Sonder employees didn't even know that this was coming. Yep, they found out not even when the guests did, but most of the time after the guests found out. They found out. There was one employee on Reddit who said, I worked at Sonder in Chicago and it's nuts to see the amount of posts about this. You all got told that the company went under before we were even informed we lost our jobs. This all happened in the most insane way possible. There was a manager at a Sonder hotel in New York who learned about the situation from a crying guest. A manager learned about the situation. Sonder employees had no clue what was happening, literally showed up for work as normal on Sunday, and had hordes of guests coming up and looking for answers that they didn't have because they weren't told anything. Employees weren't even told that they were being laid off until the next day. Could you imagine working somewhere and not knowing if you were still gonna have your job the next day? I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of us who worked in hospitality during the pandemic can imagine that, because I know I was sitting at the desk calling up my sister hotels going, hey, do you think we're going to be laid off or furloughed or what's going to happen? But we at least saw the writing on the wall, right? Like those of us who lived and worked in America, especially, all these other countries were already locking down before we did. So we kind of knew like, okay, this is probably going to happen to us. Maybe we'll see. But these people who worked at Sonder had zero clue, zero warning, no idea. What sucks too is that employees were told that they would be paid through November 10th. How nice, the day after this news broke. At least they would get pay for Monday. They were also told that they would have their healthcare through the end of the month. But that was it. That was all. No severance, no gift basket, nothing. Just, yeah, sorry, we'll pay you for today and you'll have health benefits until the end of the month and good luck from there. There was one sad but funny story where a guest staying at a Sonder property got a knock on his hotel door Monday morning, and the employee literally said, I'm very sorry, but to be blunt with you, I just lost my job. And my last task is to tell people to leave. And this guy was like, okay, this guy's probably having a worse day than I am, so I won't tear him a new one. Like, it's sad, but it's funny. And also thank you to that guy, I guess, for not taking out his frustration on the poor Sonder employee, because yeah, the employees don't deserve it. And that goes for the Marriott employees too, right? Like, yes, this is a complete disaster that was handled so poorly, but that's not on the call center Marriott employees, right? That is on the bigwigs. That is on those who are in charge, okay? Business Insider actually posted that the Marriott Sonder meltdown is a prime example of how not to handle a crisis. And that is so accurate. Marriott didn't seem to have prepared for this at all. Like, they just sent out an email saying, we're ending it, bye. They didn't prepare any of Sonder's staff. They definitely didn't prepare their call centers enough. They didn't have any plans for helping the guests who were kicked out and had to move to a different hotel. Like, you guys, I used to work at Disney World hotels, right? And let me tell you, if this was somehow something that was happening at Disney World, like they were shutting down some of their hotels and they had to move their guests to some other hotels, you would bet that they would have been on top of it. Before the guests were even told that they would need to leave, you know that they would have already been rebooked somewhere else, their transportation would have been covered, an apology note would have been written by the director of resorts himself, there would have been gift baskets, upgrades, and the staff for both the Disney hotels and the hotels that they were being moved to would have absolutely been briefed and told everything and been ready to answer every single question any guest had. And the same treatment for upcoming reservations too. I'm not saying that Disney is perfect in any way. They certainly have made plenty of mistakes, and I'm sure will make mistakes in the future. But from my experience, they sure do know how to handle guest recovery. Now, I do think that a good question to ask is this even Marriott's responsibility? Sonder's the one who defaulted on their agreement. Sonder's the one who had to file for bankruptcy. Sonder only licensed with Marriott. They weren't actually owned by them. So what responsibility does Marriott really have? But that's a key thing here. Marriott licensed them. Sonder rebranded to Sonder by Marriott Bonvoy. Marriott put their name on Sonder. People trusted Sonder because Marriott backed them. We read it in the post about the person who wanted to propose over Thanksgiving. They only booked Sonder because they trusted Marriott, and Marriott was their preferred brand. You cannot put your stamp of approval on something, add it to your portfolio, and then step away and put your hands up and say, well, it's not our problem when something goes wrong. Evan Neerman, the founder of a crisis public relations firm, said, once people start describing themselves as temporarily homeless because of your brand, the reputational damage becomes hard to contain. And that's the thing. People were saying that it was Marriott who did this to them, and in part it's true because Marriott put their name on it. People only booked with Sonder because of Marriott. They booked Sonder through Marriott. I didn't even know what Sonder was before I started researching this, but I knew Marriott. This whole thing with Sonder and Marriott was nothing short of a disaster. I feel so bad for the people who are affected. I hope that they're able to get the refunds and the help that they deserve. And I hope that this whole thing has taught Marriott a thing or two about crisis management. As Neiman said, trust is the currency of hospitality. And once people feel abandoned, it takes years to rebuild that trust, if it can be rebuilt at all. And he also added, a crisis does not destroy a brand, but a poor response does. This situation was wild. Thank you so much to the person who commented saying I needed to check out this disaster because, yeah, that's exactly what it was. And I fell down an absolute rabbit hole, and I cannot think of a single time that I have witnessed something like this. It's wild. And if you were someone who was affected by this, please, I'm so interested to know your story. Comment, let me know. But I'm going to leave it here for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any other questions or comments or anything about this case or about hospitality in general, if there's any other things you would like to have me cover, let me know. I hope that you enjoyed this different style of filming. I actually quite enjoyed this. Maybe I can look into some more hospitality cases in the future. There are a lot of old cases that could be really interesting to dive into, so let me know if that's something you're interested in. If you would like to see my content early and or get access to my private Discord, you can join my Patreon for as low as $3 a month. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!